Tracy Labreche. My daughter's been homeschooling for, I almost said 40 years. I'd make you pretty
Forever.
old. Forever. For a good, you've been in Christian education for a good solid 20 plus.
Well, I guess.
Probably 22. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Both in the school side of it, teaching in schools. And one thing I didn't mention before when we were getting warmed up was that, you know, I remember when you were a little girl, and this is something that all parents can kind of resonate with. You were a teacher even when you were a little kid. You were always trying to teach Steph and Sarah and Nick and Matt. And it's just, if you were left to your own devices, you wouldn't go watch TV. You wouldn't go do, I mean, you'd always go figure out a way to read a book to them or teach them something. So you kind of have been a teacher for a long time. So, but now you've got your own kids. How many teenagers are we going to have in the house here?
Okay, so we have 6 kids, you know, and Ava is going to be 13 in a couple weeks, so I'll have 5 teenagers.
5 teenagers in the house. And the key, the optimum word is overwhelmed, because there is a tendency to get overwhelmed, because at the same time you're managing all these things, you do have things that you're trying to get done. You know, you've got a busy day. That whole soccer practice thing, literally and figuratively, you got some talented athletes in the family and you're running them around. But you had this aha moment, and that we talked about. You sent me a text and I got this, and it was a function of your aha moment with respect to mathematics. And I want to make sure we cover that, because if you can get the worldview side down in mathematics, it just seems to me like the applications can be made pretty easy to almost every subject. But this subject has a lot of people stilted. People get sacks in math and then just sit there with it and expect it. It's not done for you worldview wise, is it?
No, it's not. And I think really, okay, so my thing was just the kids don't like math. And I know that people say, you know, there are math people and there are people who don't do math. I want them to have a delight in it on some level, not just see it as a burden to them. And so seeing them every morning, like that's the last thing they want to do is math. And so that kind of breaks my heart, because 1, they need to know it. 2, they have to learn to do hard things. You can't just not do it just because you don't want to do it. But I do feel like I can do a better job of helping them find joy in it. And so, you know, you had kind of challenged me about the Christian worldview and what that meant or what it looked like with math. And so as I was kind of exploring and finding some resources, I came across, and I had no idea it existed, the James Nichol curriculum. It's called The Dance of Numbers. And I'm going to read this quote real quick, if it's okay. But and it's from Clifford Pickover, but it's in this mathematics textbook. And it says, mathematics is the loom upon which God weaves the fabric of the universe. And that's just a profound statement. The loom upon which God weaves the fabric of the universe. So if mathematics is what God used to make the universe, it should be important to us more than just checking it off as we got it done today.
Yeah, and we talked about this loom, or this thing that he used to make it. I mean, we don't have the mind of God, but, you know, we had mentioned the periodic table. And if you look at the periodic table, we're just talking about different mathematical arrangements of the same basic particles. So, you know, you've got protons and neutrons, electrons, all of that. And if you look at that, it's just saying, okay, gold is this combination of those things. And if we're going to
and there's a pattern.
There's a pattern, exactly. Well said. And that's brilliant. We are to look for patterns in the Bible and patterns in the natural world. And I think that sometimes those patterns, and especially if a parent is passionate about this, and this isn't meant to, I'm not trying to backslap you in any way, but sometimes your kids are going to be, it's going to be a function of how excited you are about something. right? And if you can
Yeah.
get excited about it, and if you can find purpose and get excited about it yourself, and maybe I can take the blame for not maybe getting you revved up when you were a little girl about, mathematics in this sense, right? I wish that I had imparted that to you, but I did not. And it was mathematics was done sort of as an abstraction. And I think the way that we do it is the way that we did it when you were younger was even when you went to school and we would, if you remember when you were little, you did stuff before you even went to school. You had the worst of both worlds. You went to public school. You had to do your homeschool curriculum at the same time before you went to school in many cases. But it was more like we'd say this prayer, then do our mathematics and say a prayer again. And then that was it, thinking that if we put this Jesus frosting on mathematics, that's somehow integrating a Christian world in my view. And I think that I was a real big mistake that I made. What you've discovered is something different, and that's this integration point, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm just going to say, that we always have the opportunity to redeem our education and keep on learning. So even though, maybe I didn't get that, we can all do that together. And that's one of the wonderful things about homeschooling too, is, we're not isolated and we're not by ourselves. We can have this conversation all together. But yeah, you're right.
Let me interrupt you just before you go on, because there's different kids get different versions. And inside our family, I'm just going to tell you this because I found James Nichols' book, Is Mathematics Silent? After you had left to go work down in Florida in a school, a Christian school. And so your brother Matt got that kind of enthusiasm and excitement. Once I sort of understood it better, I was able to impart to Matt some of the joy and some of the fact that, look, this is how God made the universe, and this is exciting. And we talked about induction and the fact that 2 + 2 is 4 tomorrow, right? And it's always going to be, and you probably need to get the right answer, even though in schools, at least schools up here now, you don't even have to have the right answer. Any answer is okay. Not sure how that works. Don't want those people building planes that I'm going to fly on, by the way. But Matt got this, and just a little bit of pat on Matt's back, not mine. But when Matt graduated, he was valedictorian of his class, as you know. And one of the compliments that he's got from the teachers was he never missed a math problem at all at when he went to Unity, a Christian school. So at 4 years, he never missed one problem, never missed one. Now, some of it's a propensity. He was sort of hardwired for that kind of stuff. But I did have a chance to sort of, as you said, sort of try to continue on and redeem. Same way we try to redo this video after we're sideways. We don't give up. We don't quit. We if we kind of miss out in some area, we just keep trying until God says, "Hey, stop it." I guess Woody Allen always said, I'm not a Woody Allen fan necessarily, but he always said, "Death is nature's nature's way or God's way of telling you to slow down," right? And so until it's done, but until that time, we're educators. We're educators as grandparents. We're educators as parents, and on it goes. So sorry about that segue, but to your point, it is, once we get buzzed about something and we see this visceral dimension that God has put in and how mathematics applies to all these different areas, then you do get excited about it, because it glorifies him to get excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't expect for my kids to be mathematicians. I know that they're don't really have that in them, but to just appreciate God's order. And I just know one of the things I can do better too in learning myself is being able to better equip myself and equip them to know the how behind the math problems, the why, not just the how, so that they can be good problem solvers themselves. And
Well,
sorry, I just kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, I think the issue is we had covered it on so much material on the other one that we did that we're probably a little exhausted. And are you still coffeeed up quite a bit?
Well, I think it's losing its
We were a little worried
So he's
before
not
that
making coffee again.
Tracy had been a little too coffeeed up, but let's go back to the stuff that we talked about and cover these points, because I think that this aha stuff, I had mentioned to you as well, that teaching mathematics, if we see it as religious, and religious in the sense not Lutheran or Presbyterian or any of that stuff, but see it as a calling from God, whereby we try to honor God's ultimate concerns for us, and his ultimate concerns become our ultimate concerns. And when we teach mathematics in terms of that framework, we reframe it. You have a little bit different subject matter, again, as we've been saying, right? So reframing, I think, is the big aha. Is there some other things about Nichols' book that maybe kind of got you buzzed?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so one of the things, like I had said earlier, is, he throws in right away with talking about digits and numerals. He throws in theology and ontology as words to know. And also, I mean, I just think that it's so cool that, and you had mentioned this earlier in the other one we did, just about the Trinity. I mean, that's a three, everything is in numbers, and it's so cool. And if we slow down, it's there. We're just not seeing it. And if we take the time to slow down and we're intentional with our kids, and we point these things out to them, if you're not using a Christian curriculum, which, like we said, Saxon is not a Christian one. It's a good foundational text to use. But man, if there's something available that is, why not use it? I'm excited to dig in with this dance of the numbers. And I mean, I think just the mindset of mathematics is the loom upon which God weaves the fabric of the universe. And if every morning we started our math lesson with that reminder, I mean, that is a new perspective. And like you said, it's a mindset thing too. I mean, we have to just realize that with integrating a wonderful or a comprehensive or Christocentric math lesson is going to come with that as the starting point, not just here's your steps of addition, or here are these steps for arithmetic.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so. We're kind of talking about developing a philosophy of mathematics. People don't like the word philosophy, but if we can just say we're talking about the love of wisdom regarding mathematics, which is what philosophy means, then you've got something there. You've got something that philosophy sounds intimidating because of what we've been told, but we're just talking about developing a way to think about mathematics and a way to impart your kids, so that after they're long gone, believe me, your kids are going to be they're going to leave your house just like you left my house. And the whole goal here is to try to make sure that they've got the tools necessary to keep on trying. And one of the things that I appreciate about what you're doing is, and if we can kind of pull the camera back a bit, not turn it sideways like we did on the first one, but if we pull the camera back a little bit and think, why are you with that many teenagers, and you're almost on the downside of your homeschooling career in some ways, why are you continuing to try to, why are you trying to get it? Why don't you just say, well, this is almost over, I can't wait, now I'm going to go start playing pinochle or something, whatever, start planting vegetables or doing more time, but you're still excited about Christian education, just like I sense that you're just as excited about it as when your kids were younger. So that's it's that part that I kind of feel good about what you're saying to me as a parent, because you're still excited about it. And if we can impart that excitement about mathematics to our kids, any subject, we're just talking about mathematics in the worldview today, to me, that's what God wants you to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like when your kids are older and, the season of the life that we're in right now with a bunch of teenagers, I mean, they're just in this incredible stage of learning too, where there's conversations. I'm not just telling them what to do. There's that not pushback, but there's always a conversation to be had. Let's just say it that way. And
there's always another story to be told. There's always another conversation to be had.
Yeah. Well, and so the thing that's exciting even at this end, one, you're right, it is a mathematical thing. I only have a certain amount of time with each of them still here. But Zayden's doing economics. I mean, you can't do economics without math, right? That's a numbers thing. Zoe's doing chemistry. That's a numbers thing. And so there are all of these things in their high school years that if you don't have a good foundation, yeah, you're going to go through the motions and get it done, but you're never going to really understand why it works. And so, I mean, with the time that I have left with them, I just want them to appreciate it. I want them to marvel in God's creation and how he's created everything. I mean, from chemistry to the economic principles. I mean, why do some things work and some things don't work? Why, there has to be something's true and something's not true. But then even just, I was thinking about this even as we're talking, like even Asher, who's 10, challenging him the next time he's reading his Bible too, like, take note of the system of our Bible. There's chapters, there's verses, there's, maybe just even as he's reading something, notice how many, what numbers are being used, or, being more intentional about that and letting them see how God, it's important to God. It should be important to us.
And sometimes, Trace, what a brilliant thing. So, sometimes.
Oh, hey, I know Christy.
Hi, Christy. Welcome to we're right side up this time. Thanks for joining us. I probably kept some people from joining us who didn't want to tilt their head, but yeah. So this idea of imparting wonder, and one of my mentors said this to me one time, that you can't impart something that you yourself lack. So when it comes to educating, you can tell your kids to get excited about math, but they know you. They're gonna know pretty quick what the drill is. And I usually use the smoking analogy, right? If you're trying to teach your kids, you say, you're not supposed to smoke cigarettes, and here's a whole bunch of reasons why. But if you're smoking a cigarette while you're telling them, then they get the real thing they get is smoking cigarettes is okay. And I'm not mad at people that smoke today. Don't send me any hate literature one way or the other. I'm just saying we got to be careful about what we're on. It's like a program. It's like we're the director. It's on a game show. But as our friend Perry Coughlin said, this is not a dress rehearsal. Mm-hmm. You only get so much time.
Yeah.
And you got to make it count. And we have to make it count so that we don't feel overwhelmed. And if you're gonna try to say, I'm only going to be overwhelmed if once I get all of the details of statistics or calculus down, then you're going to be one frustrated mom or dad your entire career. But if you can say, look, I'm going to find the tools and I'm going to teach my kids with tools, but it's going to be my game, my thing to impart marvel that you said, wonder, the love of knowledge, the love of trying to figure out what God did, and to try to be appreciative and thankful that we've got numbers. I think a lot of people and a lot of unbelievers will use numbers every day and pretend like they exist apart from God. So it has an apologetics platform from which you can operate on. I had mentioned to you previously about the philosophy of numbers. You can't really believe like some religious philosophies do that say all is one. Remember, John Lennon wanted all to be one, right? And he was going to, well, if all's one, it's pretty hard to divide that up or to cut that pizza up in 12 pieces if all has to stay one. So there's a philosophy of this. There's a philosophy of the one and the many. that we have to understand. There's a philosophy in the Bible. We didn't talk about this before, but God is very specific about numbers when it comes to some temple things. We talked about for the temple, right? We just kind of released that the temple gets destroyed, but there was an awful lot that went into it. No, if you look at Noah's Ark, there's an awful lot of numbers that go into it. And yet at the same time, God uses numbers in a very vague way sometimes that can confuse our kids, that if we're not really on it, we can't help them with the Bible. When he said, and everyone in Jerusalem was feeling this way, or everyone went out, does he mean everyone without exception? So God even intimates the use of numbers versus numerals, and we kind of got to get that down a little bit to even understand the Bible itself. And as you mentioned, the Bible's full of chapter breaks, and this it's how those are impositions on it, but it's how God kind of divided things up.
Yeah, well, there are
divided.
Yeah, well, there are systems all around us, and whether we recognize it or not, they're still there. So.
And patterns. Let's see. You mentioned patterns previously. The ability to discern patterns in our own personal life, in the natural world, in the Bible, and other literature. The ability to discern patterns is a big thing too. So it's also a little bit of an IQ test. If you take an IQ test, some of that is the ability to say what's the operational pattern here. I know you got to go. I saw that little hint.
Yeah, I got to take the boys to volleyball practice. So.
Okay. Well, let's finish up. Maybe no, it's good. We can say things like maybe, hey, how can we just, if we want to introduce this instead of there's times to lecture, there's times to ask questions. If we want to be a little more Socratic in how we're doing this, we can ask questions like, what do you think a good way? What would be a great way to use numbers to glorify God? If you just ask your kids that, and while you're driving, I hate to tell you to turn your favorite Henty story down, but turn that down and just have a conversation. What's a great way to use God, to use numbers to glorify God?
Yeah, and we'll probably talk economics.
We talk about a conversation. I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Things have to be right. You can't spend more money than you have. Hard lesson for some of us to learn. Our government can't spend more money than it has. Hard lesson to learn. We'll find that out sometime. There's always a reckoning of such things. So I don't want you to be late. But,
well, thanks, Dad. This was great.
I'm proud of your energy. Love you, Trace. Thank you.
I love you too. Thanks, Dad. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.